I never imagined that what began as a hopeful new chapter in my life would soon turn into a daily struggle with unresolved pasts. My name is Riley, and for the past 4 years I've been in a relationship with Alex, a man I love deeply, with whom I built dreams of a future together. We shared plans for a cozy home, adventures on lazy weekends, and even the possibility of starting a family. Everything was supposed to fall neatly into place. But as fate would have it, a specter from Alex's past kept reappearing, forcing me to confront issues I never anticipated. It started subtly. I first noticed it at a small get-together hosted by Alex's friend. I was having a good time, laughing along with everyone, when I caught sight of a woman I recognized from old social media posts. She was laughing, chatting with Alex as if they were old friends, and for a fleeting moment, I felt a twist of unease. I tried to brush it off. Perhaps she was just one of Alex's friends from before we met. But over the next few weeks, her appearances grew more frequent. Whether it was at casual dinners or chance encounters on busy city streets, she always seemed to be there, hovering at the edges of our lives. At first, I attempted to rationalize the situation. I told myself that everyone has a past and that Alex had always been open about his previous relationship with this woman, Jordan. He had mentioned that they dated for a few years before our relationship began, and that they'd remained friendly even after they broke up. But as time passed, the friendly greetings turned into lengthy conversations, and the casual hellos morphed into what I perceived as an intimacy that shouldn't exist between an ex and her partner's new love. I remember one chilly evening when Alex and I were having dinner at a local restaurant. The conversation was pleasant until a familiar face appeared at a neighboring table. Jordan, looking elegant and confident, caught Alex's eye. He excused himself politely and went over to greet her. I sat frozen, listening to the remnants of their conversation from across the room, words that were warm and reminiscent of a closeness I hadn't seen since before I entered the picture. My stomach churned with a mix of jealousy, confusion, and a growing sense of betrayal. After a few minutes, Alex returned, his smile fixed and his tone light, as if nothing were amiss. I forced a smile, but inside I was crumbling. Over the following days, the emotional toll began to show. I started questioning my worth, wondering if Alex's lingering connection with Jordan meant that I was only a temporary replacement or a second option. Nights became sleepless as I replayed every interaction, every smile exchange between them, and every subtle touch that I might have missed. The challenges were not merely about jealousy. They dug deep into the emotional baggage I carried from past hurts and insecurities. I had always prided myself on being independent and resilient, but this situation was pushing me into a vulnerability I wasn't prepared for. I knew that to resolve these feelings, I had to confront the issue head-on. One quiet Sunday afternoon, while Alex was out running errands, I sat down with my journal and began to write. I poured out my thoughts about the constant presence of Jordan, the nagging anxiety about what her frequent appearances might mean for our future, and the potential for conflict that loomed over every encounter. In my journal, I detailed how the emotional baggage of seeing an ex so regularly was slowly eroding the foundation of trust we had built. I asked myself hard questions. Was it possible that Alex still harbored unresolved feelings? Could his continued interactions with Jordan be a sign that our relationship was not as secure as I once believed? The next time I saw Alex, I mustered the courage to bring up the topic. We were at home, the evening calm and unassuming, when I finally broached the subject. Alex, can we talk about Jordan? I began, my voice wavering slightly despite my efforts to sound calm. He paused, his eyes softening as he looked at me. Of course, Riley. What's on your mind? I took a deep breath. I can't help but notice that she keeps showing up, and it makes me feel unsettled. I know you said you're just friends, but sometimes it feels like there's something more, something from your past that you're not telling me. Alex leaned forward, placing his hand gently over mine. Riley, I understand why you feel that way. Jordan and I did have a history, but it's in the past. I care about you now. Everything I do is for our future. I promise you there's nothing more to it. His words were soothing, but the seed of doubt had already been planted. I didn't feel reassured. Instead, I felt the need for more transparency. I need us to set some clear expectations, Alex. I'm not trying to control who you talk to, but I need to feel secure in our relationship. Can we agree to some boundaries regarding your interactions with Jordan?" He sighed, clearly conflicted. "I'm willing to talk about it, Riley. I want us to be on the same page. But please understand, I can't just cut her out of my life completely. She's a part of my past. However, I promise to keep things respectful and not let her interfere with what we have." That conversation, while difficult, marked a turning point. I realized that communication was key. Over the next few weeks, we had several honest discussions about what each of us expected. I learned more about Jordan from Alex, how they had remained in contact due to mutual friends, and shared experiences from a chapter of his life that was already closed. Alex assured me that his heart was entirely with me, and though I wasn't entirely convinced at first, I decided to work on building trust. I started using I statements to express my feelings. "I feel anxious when I see you with her. I feel hurt when it seems like your past overshadows our present." Slowly, these conversations helped clear some of the misunderstandings. But despite our efforts to communicate, the challenges persisted. Jordan continued to pop up at events and social gatherings. Every time I saw her, a wave of old insecurities crashed over me. The potential for conflict was always in the background, a threat waiting to disrupt our carefully rebuilt trust. I noticed that every encounter with her left me with a lingering sense of unease, and sometimes even a spark of anger. It wasn't that I hated her, far from it, but her very presence served as a constant reminder of a past I was desperately trying to leave behind. Determined to build a secure relationship, Alex and I decided to work on strengthening our foundation. We set aside time for each other, away from the influence of friends or exes, dedicating our weekends to shared hobbies and quiet moments of connection. We attended couples counseling, where a compassionate therapist helped us navigate the murky waters of past relationships and present insecurities. Through these sessions, I learned how to articulate my feelings more clearly and how to trust again, even when doubts lingered. Alex, too, came to understand the deep impact that unresolved history could have on our relationship. We set clear expectations for future interactions, an agreement that he would always update me if he were planning to see Jordan in any capacity, and that we would attend events as a united front. Building boundaries wasn't easy. There were times when I felt guilty for even wanting to limit contact with someone who was once important to Alex. But I reminded myself that my feelings were valid, and that establishing boundaries was not an act of jealousy, but a step toward preserving our future. I discussed with Alex how I wanted him to define those boundaries, when it was acceptable to see Jordan and when it wasn't. We agreed that if Jordan ever attempted to insert herself into our private moments, it would be addressed immediately. I made it clear that respect for our relationship was non-negotiable, and Alex promised to honor that. As we worked on these issues, I also focused on creating a secure relationship by building trust and intimacy. I learned that reassurance was crucial. Small gestures, a thoughtful note left on the kitchen counter, a spontaneous call during a busy day, or simply holding hands during a walk, became symbols of our commitment. I began to see that our relationship was not defined by the presence of an ex, but by the strength of our connection and the care we showed one another daily. Our late-night conversations, where we shared our hopes, fears, and dreams, became a source of healing. Slowly, I found myself believing that the future we envisioned together was worth fighting for. Yet, even as we moved forward together, there were moments when the past crept in unexpectedly. At a friend's birthday party, I saw Jordan again. This time, the setting was relaxed and joyful, but her presence still sent a jolt of anxiety through me. I stayed close to Alex that night, and when he noticed my discomfort, he squeezed my hand and whispered that he loved me. I appreciated his reassurance, but the lingering feeling of being overshadowed by a part of his past still haunted me. There were also times when I questioned whether seeking professional help might be necessary, not just for our relationship, but for my own emotional well-being. I began to see a counselor, where I explored the roots of my insecurities and learned strategies to cope with the constant reminders of Jordan's presence. It wasn't an easy journey. Some sessions left me raw and vulnerable, while others empowered me to assert my needs more clearly. I discovered that building a happy and healthy future together required more than just resolving conflicts. It meant continuously nurturing trust, empathy, and open communication. One evening, after a particularly challenging day filled with mixed signals and painful reminders of my insecurities, Alex and I sat down for one of our most honest conversations yet. "Riley," he began softly, "I know that every time I see Jordan, it hurts you. I want you to know that my heart is with you, and I'm committed to making our relationship stronger than ever." His eyes, filled with sincerity, searched mine for understanding. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Limit my contact with her, always include you in any plans, and be transparent about everything. I want us to build a foundation that isn't shaken by ghosts from the past." I reached for his hand, feeling a surge of both relief and lingering uncertainty. "I appreciate that, Alex. I need to feel secure, to know that I'm your priority when you're with her. Even if it's just in a group setting, I can't help but feel like I'm competing with a part of your past that I can't control." I paused, gathering my thoughts. "I'm not asking you to erase your history. I understand that Jordan was once important to you, but I need us to agree that our future comes first. That means clear communication, setting boundaries that protect our space, and always putting our relationship first." Alex nodded slowly, his gaze steady. "I promise, Riley. I'll be more proactive about communicating. If I have any plans involving her, you'll be the first to know. And if any situation arises where you feel uncomfortable, I want you to tell me immediately so we can address it together." That conversation marked a turning point, a moment where both of us acknowledged the challenges posed by a partner's ex and committed to overcoming them together. It wasn't a magical fix. There were still difficult days ahead and moments when old wounds threatened to resurface. But in that vulnerable exchange, I realized that building a secure relationship required us to face our insecurities head-on, to embrace open and honest communication, and to work together as a team against the lingering echoes of the past. As the weeks turned into months, our efforts began to bear fruit. Alex followed through on his promise, and while Jordan continued to appear in our social circles from time to time, her impact on our relationship diminished. I began to notice that the constant anxiety was slowly replaced by a cautious optimism. We both recognized that the key to moving forward was not to try to erase the past, but to create a present where trust and respect were paramount. We celebrated small victories, a successful dinner with mutual friends, a day without any awkward encounters, or simply a quiet evening where the only voices in the room were ours. That evening, after mailing the carefully composed letter to James's parents, Amanda's mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. On one hand, there was a profound sense of relief. At least now someone who truly cared was aware of her struggles. On the other, there was an undercurrent of dread about how James would react and what the next few days would bring. The letter had been her way of reclaiming her voice. It was raw, vulnerable, and unfiltered. Now she waited. For hours, Amanda sat by her window in her father's house, watching as twilight gave way to a moonlit night. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart would leap in anticipation. Was it Karen, or even possibly a call from James? But the silence was long and heavy. The next morning, as the sun broke over the horizon, her phone finally rang with a number she recognized immediately. "Karen. Amanda, it's Karen. I received your letter, and I want you to know that I'm here for you," came the gentle yet determined voice of James's mother. Karen's words, filled with warmth and concern, provided Amanda a momentary respite from the emotional storm. Over a cup of tea in the cozy kitchen of the family home, Karen and Amanda spoke at length. Karen expressed her sorrow over how the situation had unfolded and promised to speak with James. Firmly, yet lovingly, she reminded Amanda that sometimes the ones we trust the most need a gentle push to face their responsibilities. After that conversation, Amanda's hope began to stir. However, the waiting period that followed was excruciating. Days passed without a word from James. At work, Amanda struggled to focus. Every notification made her heart skip, only to be met with silence. At home, she meticulously recorded every unanswered call and ignored text, not out of bitterness, but as evidence of the deep emotional distance that had crept into their once close relationship. Then, on the fourth day after sending the letter, a breakthrough came unexpectedly. While Amanda was finishing a long day at her part-time job, one she had taken to help cover rising bills, and ensure a nutritious diet during her pregnancy. Her phone buzzed with an incoming message from James. The message was brief, almost apologetic in its tone. "I'm sorry. Can we talk?" James. The relief was immediate, yet laced with anxiety. That night, Amanda and James met at a quiet cafe, a place they used to frequent together during happier times. The air in the cafe was cool, and the low hum of conversation provided a gentle backdrop to the serious talk that was about to take place. James looked different than the last time they had met. His eyes were downcast, and there was an unmistakable weight in his posture. Amanda steeled herself and began, "James, I need to understand what's going on. I reached out to your parents because I felt completely alone in this. I need you to explain why you've been so distant and why you misrepresented our situation to your family." James took a deep breath before speaking. "Amanda, I've been overwhelmed. I never intended to hurt you. I thought that by keeping things as they were, I could fix my own issues without adding more to your plate. I was afraid of the pressure of facing my own insecurities about our future. When you got pregnant, everything changed in ways I wasn't ready for." His voice trembled as he continued. "I kept saying that I'd fix things, that I'd handle everything. But every time I saw you struggling, every time I heard your voice breaking over the phone, I felt trapped. I thought if I kept my distance, maybe the situation would resolve itself, and I wouldn't have to face the painful reality that I might not be the partner you deserve." Amanda's eyes filled with tears as she listened. "James, that's not how a relationship works. I needed you, your love, your support, your commitment, especially now. I trusted you for 6 years, and I believed we were in this together. Instead, your silence has made me feel abandoned." He looked up, regret etched into every line of his face. "I know, and I'm so sorry. I've been selfish, and I let my fears control me." Karen spoke to me, and for the first time, I realized how much I was hurting you. "I promise I'm working on it. I'm taking steps to fix my license. I'm talking to my family, and I'm trying to be present. I don't want to lose you. Amanda." The cafe's soft lighting illuminated the sincerity in his eyes, but Amanda's pain remained palpable. "I need more than promises, James. I need action. I need to feel secure in our future. I need to know that you'll be there, not just in words, but in every moment that matters." For a long, heavy moment, silence stretched between them. Finally, James reached across the table, his hand trembling as he covered hers. "I understand. I'm going to show you. I'm going to make things right, starting now." That evening marked a tentative turning point. Over the next several days, James began to take concrete steps. He called his parents and explained the situation with more honesty than before. He made an effort to be more communicative, sending regular updates, even small gestures like bringing Amanda a favorite treat from his hometown and sharing his plans for resolving his driver's license issues. Though the path ahead was far from smooth, and the scars of past neglect would take time to heal, Amanda started to notice subtle changes. The steady support from Karen continued, and gradually, James's actions began to echo his promises. He scheduled a follow-up meeting with Karen, where she gently urged him to remember that his responsibilities were not just legal or logistical. They were emotional, too. "You must show Amanda that she is your priority," Karen said during that meeting, her voice both stern and kind. "Our family has always valued honesty and togetherness. Don't let your fears rob you of that." In those meetings, James began to open up about his struggles, admitting that the thought of becoming a father terrified him. He recounted how his past failures and the pressure of living up to family expectations had left him feeling paralyzed. Amanda listened, a mix of sorrow and understanding washing over her. "I'm scared too, James," she said quietly. "But I need us to work together to face our fears head on. We can't build a future if you're always hiding from the hard parts." Their conversations became more frequent, gradually evolving from terse apologies to deeper, more meaningful exchanges about their hopes and vulnerabilities. Amanda, too, learned to express her emotions more openly. In their late-night talks over phone, she revealed the toll that his silence had taken on her, how it had made her feel invisible and unworthy, even as she nurtured the promise of their future child. One evening, As the autumn leaves danced outside their window and the world felt hushed with anticipation of winter, James surprised Amanda by showing up at her father's house with a bouquet of wildflowers. "I want to start over," he said earnestly. "I know I've hurt you, and I know that my silence was a betrayal of everything we built. But I'm here now, and I'm committed to proving that you and our baby are the most important parts of my life." Amanda felt a cautious warmth fill her chest. She took the flowers, their delicate petals a small but meaningful gesture, and nodded slowly. "I want to believe you, James. I want us to rebuild, to create something real from all this pain. But I need to see that you're willing to make the changes necessary consistently every day." Over the following weeks, the couple worked hard to mend the fissures in their relationship. They set aside time each evening for uninterrupted conversations, and James made sure to include Amanda in every plan that involved his past contacts, especially when it came to any interaction with Jordan. True to his word, he began giving her advance notice of any plans involving his ex, and when they did cross paths at social events, he was careful to keep the interactions brief and respectful. For Amanda, the journey was as much about reclaiming her self-worth as it was about salvaging the relationship. She started attending counseling sessions where she learned strategies to manage her anxiety and rebuild her confidence. Slowly, the constant worry and self-doubt that had plagued her since James's silence began to subside. In counseling, she discovered that setting clear boundaries was not an act of jealousy, but an essential part of maintaining a healthy relationship. In one particularly moving session, Amanda's counselor said, "Your feelings are valid, Amanda. It's not about controlling who your partner interacts with. It's about ensuring that you feel safe, respected, and valued. When you express your needs, you're laying the groundwork for mutual trust." Those words resonated deeply, and Amanda began to see that her insistence on communication and boundaries was not a sign of weakness, but a strength that would help forge a more secure future for both her and the baby. Meanwhile, as James slowly emerged from his shell of inaction, he began to work on his own issues. He reconnected with a close friend from college who had faced similar fears of commitment and fatherhood. In their late-night talks, this friend encouraged James to confront his fears head-on, to see that vulnerability was not a weakness, but a bridge to deeper connection. With time, James started to share more openly about his past mistakes and his internal struggles. His newfound transparency wasn't a magic cure, but was a start, a promise that he was willing to work, no matter how difficult it might be. One crisp winter evening, as the first snow began to fall gently outside, James and Amanda sat together on the back porch of her father's house. Wrapped in a shared blanket, they watched the world transform under the quiet beauty of snowfall. James's eyes, usually guarded and distant, shone with a mixture of determination and remorse as he spoke softly. "I know I have a long way to go, but I promise you, Amanda, that I'm going to be the partner you deserve. I want to be there for you and our baby in every way possible. I'm willing to do whatever it takes." Amanda looked at him, the bitter taste of past pain mingling with a cautious optimism. "I want to believe you, James. I really do. But it's going to take time for me to trust again completely. I need consistency. I need to know that our future is built on actions, not just words." And so, in that quiet moment beneath the falling snow, they agreed to start anew, a commitment to face their challenges together, to prioritize communication, and to rebuild the trust that had once been the cornerstone of their love.